Hi, everybody. It's Friday. I never remember the date. It's September
27.
27th. Yeah, it's September 27th, and this is our 229th or 30th. I think it's 229th consecutive weeks of conversations about theater. We started back in April 17th, 2020. Um, in case you haven't figured it out, we did it because we were responding to quarantine. I had a choice, close my company or open up a Zoom room. So I opened up a Zoom room, and here we are, and people are coming in every week, and we talk about just about anything and everything we can that's theater related, and also beyond theater. We talk about a lot of things that are music related and dance and film, art. We're just multifaceted, but hopefully we attract people that are into all of this and enjoy these conversations, and hopefully, or maybe even some inspired now and then. Um, we we're all pretending that we're back to normal, aren't we? But I don't want. I'm not going to even ask you to raise your hands. If I asked everybody how many people do they know who have COVID right now, it wouldn't be any different than the answer was 3 years ago. But at least it's not as worrisome as it was. It was not as dire, although it's still serious for some people. So we're back in what we're trying to remake into the world that we used to know. Um, I'm not sure that it's ever going to be the world we used to know, although there are some people in politics who are trying to turn the time back to 1940. But we are moving on, or moving along, and moving forward, and having conversations about theater. And I have a particular fondness for talking to multi-hyphenate friends of mine, who are, some of them are pretty well known. I think you may know the lady that I have coming in today. That's Tonya Pinkins, one of my favorite multi-hyphenates. Tonya, welcome to TRU. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new Tyler Perry show that you're on. I
Thank
understand that you're true to life. You're playing like a billionaire or something like that.
Yeah, I'm playing a really wild, crazy woman. I love Ms. Marie. I love
Yeah.
her.
So it's just great. So how do you get into character?
There's no getting into character at TPS. We shoot 150 pages in a day. We do 22 episodes in 9 days.
Okay. Wow. So let's talk about the different aspects of your career. Let's
Well, let me just say that the new aspect of my career is I have a new play that I've written called Jeffrey Manor, and I'm an Apollo Theater 24-25 artist cohort. So we'll be in the Apollo Salon series in April 12th. Jeffrey Manor will be performed at the Proco Theater.
that's incredible.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah.
Um, so when did you get that news?
When did I get what?
Then when did you find out that you're going to be part of the series?
Oh gosh, I mean, we've been talking about it. I mean, this is really this is their first year since the renovation of the Victoria opening. So, I mean, we've been talking about it for a year, and just things have been going slow. So we thought we'd have the contracts in March, but then it didn't really happen until like August, and still there's more paperwork that has to come. So, but back in March, they told me what my dates would be.
But I have to remember to add a hyphen. So there's another hyphen. So you're a playwright now.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. That's amazing. I want to talk about all the different things that you do, and I think that what interests me is, why, first of all, why do you work in so many different areas, and how did the different areas fulfill you in different ways? And but let's start with your base. You started off, as far as I know, unless I'm missing something in my reading, you started off as a musical theater actress. And was that your
That
goal?
actually wouldn't be true because my first professional job was I got my equity card in a play
Oh,
in
you
the
did.
world premiere of Willie Yinka's Death and the King's Horseman at the Goodman Theater when I was 16.
16.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you found your way to theater at such a young age, because that's amazing. I think, there are probably a lot of people that are going, "Wow, why couldn't I do that? How did it happen?"
I had an elementary school teacher who was a hobbyist actor, and so we took a lot of classes at the St. Nicholas Theater Company. And we would do, shows, and he would rent all the equipment. So, I think my first play that I did for that teacher was The Miracle Worker. And then I did several roles, Golda and Huddle and Fiddler on the Roof. I did Anna and the King and I. And then he sort of lobbied St. Nicholas Theater to bring me in as a teenager into their professional acting program. So William H. Macy was my acting coach when I was 15.
I didn't know that. That's amazing. That's incredible. What an incredible start. You must have felt very blessed. But how how did you how did you turn that into a career? I mean, I go back. The earliest I that I was really aware of was Jelly's Last Jam. So
Oh, yeah, no, I had a lot of things sort of before then. Um, you know, I just kept getting work. I don't, that's really the truth of it is my teacher was always sort of pushing me to go to auditions, and I just kept getting work, and my mother had a hard time keeping work. So I just felt like work was something you didn't turn down. And I just kept saying yes to work and booked merrily. We roll along. I was in college at Carnegie Mellon, and I was actually going to Puerto Rico for my vacation. And my teacher was like, "No, there's this cattle call in the paper. You got to come back home over Christmas break and go to this cattle call." And I'm like, "What cattle call? No." But I did, and I auditioned for Joanna Merlin, and she said, "I'd like to take you to New York to audition for Hal Prince and Stephen Sondheim," and I did, and they cast me in Merrily We Roll Along, which wasn't going to happen until the fall of the next year. So I went and finished my freshman year at Carnegie, and then came to do Merrily in the following fall.
that's extraordinary. I remember this. I actually saw the original Merrily. It was the same year
You
that
mean the
I had my
4 hour
one and
one?
no, it was cut down by the time I saw it. But
Okay.
it was the same year that I had my one and only off-Broadway show. And so I kind of looked at it as, oh well, Stephen Sondheim and I both didn't do so well this season.
Oh,
So
I like that.
it kind of comforted me a little bit. So what did your t-shirt say?
Hmm?
What did your t-shirt say in Merrily? Merrily we roll along. Everybody wore t-shirts
Oh
with it.
God, I was seeing a picture of that yesterday on Facebook. One of them said reporter, one of them said, I know one of them said reporter, and another one
Okay.
said something else that I saw.
Okay. It's Merrily we roll along indeed. It's I have to tell you, I read about you constantly, and I don't think the things that I read go back far enough because this is incredibly interesting. I'm so excited just to learn that I actually saw you in Merrily We Roll Along. It's like amazing to me. Um, it's actually thrilling to me. So what was it about? What was it that drew you to acting? Are you from a family that would normally have expected you to go into the
No,
arts?
nothing drew me to acting except my teacher.
Really?
Yeah,
So what did you think that you were going to do before the acting
I was going to
sort
go
of
to Yale and be a business person.
really?
Yeah,
Well,
I got a full ride to Yale.
Fulbright to 18. Oh my God. I feel so ill prepared. I mean, like I just know the last, 30, 35, 40 triumphs of yours. I don't know the first 100. So that's great. Let so so you actually were acting in and out of musicals. So somewhere along the line, you must have started doing some sort of vocal training because you have like an amazing
Yeah, my
voice.
mother sent me to some, there was like a little old lady downtown on Wabash in Chicago, gosh, that I took voice classes from when I was about, I don't know how old I was. I don't think, maybe it wasn't until I got into high school, but I know that when I was about 9, she put me in a little theater company, and I did, little parts in Sound of Music and Peter Pan. I remember that.
So obviously everybody knows that you got a Tony Award for Trugella's Last Jam, right?
I don't
I'm
know if
not I'm
everybody knows, but I did.
what? Yeah.
I don't know if everybody knows, but I did.
Should have gotten a Tony Award for Caroline or Change. Well, that's another story. In between that, there was the one based on Shakespeare. What's it called?
Play on, 12th Night.
Play on. Yeah, play on.
Duke Ellington and 12th Night.
So you're quite the star of musical theater, and quite.
Thank you.
I'm still kind of amazed that I actually know you. It's like, wow, I know Tonya Pinkins. I feel like that's amazing to me. So how did you start going into, I know that you also direct. And the thing I want to say about you is you're incredibly well known and well loved in theater with awards and all this. And yet I know for a fact that you have spent a lot of your time working with small not-for-profit companies and nurturing and mentoring younger people. When did you start balancing those two sides, the Broadway star and the person working with small companies and helping them?
I think I've always done that. I mean, I used to work with the Foundling Hospital and take children out when I first came to New York as a teen, and I was a rape crisis counselor at the St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital when I was in my 20s. So service is just important to me, and so I've always found a way to be of service.
Interesting. Service also means a lot to me, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I'm not sure that it always I'm not sure that everybody recognizes the value of service. Um, I do think that I don't want to get too political, but I do think that there is um, a lot of stuff going on in our country, and I don't think that we've nurtured a society of people that are dedicated to service. I think self-service perhaps, but I'm not sure about service. Um,
Yeah,
how do you feel about what's going on?
I was just reading a really interesting article, a couple of interesting articles today, and don't tell me where because I read from so many different publications every day. But one was talking about two girls in college together, and one had come from a poor family and one had come from a more affluent family, and they were talking about how they both were stressed. The poor girl was worried all the time about whether she would have enough to pay for college. The wealthier girl was worried about whether she would be able to be as successful as her parents were and maintain the same lifestyle that she grew up with, and that there was this stress that's on everyone no matter what class they're in, because there's so much focus on success, and success is either some sort of name recognition or some sort of monetary thing. And you also don't know about me that I'm on this mission to visit every country in the world, and I've been to 83 countries. And it is a very American thing, this success, success, success. I walked the Camino de Compostela this summer, and it was fascinating to me that in Spain and in Portugal, which were, early colonizing nations, that they don't want to be tourist countries, which is what they turn most of the world and the global south into. So there were huge protests against tourism. Barcelona banned Airbnb. And so when I'm traveling the world, I'm conscious of the fact that we have turned these countries where people lived on land and they had a sustainable lifestyle, and now they have to sit around doing nothing, selling cheap goods, and entertaining foreigners who are coming there. Japan is another country that's like, there's just going to be a huge tax on anybody who's not Japanese who's visiting here. We don't want it. And so there's this rollback of this idea of tourism. People don't want to have tourists in their nation. And it's not a quality of life to be working in a tourist industry, yet so much of the world has been turned into that. But traveling across Spain and walking 10 and 12 hours a day, I was astonished at how many towns I walked through that did not have a coffee shop, that did not have a restaurant, because people eat at home. And so there's something that we've been sold in the major cities of the USA that is not the lifestyle of most people of the world. And I think it's sort of a corrupting of the soul way of being.
Amazing. And disturbing a little. Um, I think that where do you think the crossroads are between um, your different passions? I mean, what I was trained to do a life purpose um, uh, thing thing. I don't know what you call it, test years ago, and I started to realize that all of the different things that I did came from a very similar source. What do you think your life purpose is, and what unites all of the different things that you're doing?
I have
It
no
could be,
idea.
it
I
could be
just
service. It could
I
be.
just got here and thought, like, what am I supposed to do with this time I have on the earth? Since everything that I built the last 62 years on was built on genocide and lies. So what am I supposed to do? How do I go forward when I'm complicit and participating in that? There's no way to actually not be complicit and participate in that. So I would say that that is actually something I am contemplating on a daily basis as we speak. Like, try to not do any more harm than I have to. When I am a tourist, I recognize that I'm a colonizer everywhere I go. I spend a good deal of my time in Panama. I'm a colonizer here, so I try to make sure that I am generous with people and giving money to local people that's going to go into families and support people, and trying to be very generous whenever I'm traveling in somebody else's homeland, getting to live better than the people who it's their home get to live.
Well, maybe because we're made of similar stuff, but I certainly wish that we're more there was more awareness, more self-awareness, like what you're talking about in general and in our country. I will just stick to our country right now because it's sticking to me. So let me ask you, you do many different things, and obviously they all give you joy, or you wouldn't be doing them. Um, Can you can you talk a little bit about the difference? And this is getting simplistic. We've gotten very profound, and I'm going to go a little simpler. Um, can you tell me what the difference in the satisfaction, in the soul satisfaction is between doing theater and like doing film and doing TV or directing or the different things that you do? You do so much.
I used to really love the theater, the collaboration, being in a room with a bunch of artists used to be a thrilling thing for me. I don't know that I will ever do it again. The world and the politics of all the things now. I mean, even the play that I'm writing, I understand intimacy coordinators where people have to be physical or there's violence or sex acts, but now they're telling me you have to have intimacy coordinators if their subject matter is controversial, racism, sexism, incest. I'm like, what? Intimacy coordinator? These people aren't licensed therapists. What? What? I'm like, I don't even want to get in the room with this kind of craziness. I mean, I like, uh, yeah, it's so I don't see myself doing theater anymore, and it makes me very sad because I love it. I loved it, but the politics of the rooms are something that I don't have the tolerance for. And you're not allowed to acknowledge that because then you're being abusive or you're harming people. And it's like, I'm too old for all that. So, creating
Yeah,
my own work.
we kind of have a celebration of triggers. We're basically
Oh,
a society. We're celebrating the triggers, and
and
I get that there are triggers. I understand that.
And it used to be when you had a trigger, that's when you knew you were doing your most work. Like, ooh, you're feeling something, get into class and use it. Now it's like, I'm feeling something, I have to go home and lie down or something. I don't have patience or tolerance. It just doesn't interest me. I keep thinking about this apocryphal phrase that's attributed to Socrates that what is it? Tough times make strong people make good times make weak people, and weak people make tough times, and we are definitely going into some tough times.
It's funny, it doesn't sound like Socrates, but I certainly agree with it. Um, yeah, we are in the throes of tough times, and we don't know where we're going right now. We're at a crossroads, and we don't know which road the country's going to take. So it's a little terrifying. So let's come back to theater. Um, how do you how do you choose what you're going to do next? Do you just let the door open and follow it, or do you have plans? Have you planned things? Have you had goals that you've set?
I've always had, and I always ask my students to make a list of who you want to work with, who do you admire, who do you want to work with. And generally, when I've picked jobs, it's just about who's in the room. It's not about reading a script. If the people in the room are exciting people that I want to learn from, I don't even care what the script is. I just want to get in the room with them.
What was the most profound discovery that you've made in shows that you've been in? Has anything changed you, or have you changed it?
I hope so. I've been on the earth for a long time.
Yeah, me too.
That I think of the theater as this very sacred work. I think being an actor in the theater is like being a high priestess. It always astonishes me that people will come to you after a show and they will be moved and tell you about something that didn't happen in the show. They see the play that they need to see. And I'd say that's kind of the most profound thing, that people come, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing something that's authentic and that resonates with them, they get the message that they need to get.
Yeah. Um, I remember we had a conversation at Polaris North Theater when we were doing things live. You came in and we were talking about getting past the gatekeepers. That was in 2019. Um, we've gone through some forced realizations over quarantine. We were all forced. I always say God basically sent us to the room and to sit and think about what we've done. And we learned a lot, I think, during shutdown, or many of us did. The people that didn't, I don't understand how they could have missed it. But so there so there was a conscious effort made to be a little bit more aware, and we have a whole thing about DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, which we have to remember to include as well. Have we made much progress? Um, or how did you feel? Because I know that you were frustrated.
I'm a
Let's put it this way.
philosopher.
You were
I'm
frustrated
a
back then.
philosopher. No, I was. I mean, yeah, frustrated. No, because my life is good. Yeah, frustrated. I guess frustrated. I'm always frustrated. I'm a philosopher. I don't know that I'm capable of solving any problems, but I am very capable of thinking about things from 100 different points of view. So, but the people who actually get there and get their hands dirty and do it, I don't know that I can do that. But um, I think the biggest and the best thing that we've done is we've the conversation is being had, and so people are thinking about accessibility. Um, I certainly it's in my awareness all the time now. Can people get in here? Are people, the fact that people acknowledge, like, we didn't do it on this call, that I'm a brown person and I've got blue on my hair, a blue wrap on my hair, and I'm wearing a blue pattern dress, and I'm coming to you from, the indigenous lands of the Gunayala and the Wuan, and that people are making these efforts to connect and communicate. So to me, that is the biggest piece, is that people are actually having the conversation about it. I think we probably have a long way to go before some really big changes happen, but the conversation is first and foremost because people have been living being excluded and erased from the conversation for as long as Western civilization has been around. So to me, that's huge.
I'm glad to hear you say that because I keep saying the reason I keep doing this is because I think conversation is key. I feel the same way you do. I don't know whether I'm in a position to make the changes I'd like to see in the world, but I am willing and able to talk about it and have people engage in conversations about it. The the whole thing that happened in 2021, the George Floyd and all of that, um, forced a lot of us to look at things in a way that you had already been looking at it, but a lot of us hadn't, and to understand things on a whole different level. And I've seen efforts being made to be more conscious, more aware, more equitable. Um, and I always refer back. You may not have realized what an influence you had, impact you had on me in that night that we talked about the getting past the gatekeepers. I mean, it was changing for me. Um, I know there's been an effort made, whether it's been an effective one or not, I don't know, to open up the possibilities so that the gatekeepers aren't keeping everything incredibly white and the same as it's always been. But I don't think that we're there yet. But what do you feel has happened in the past 4 years?
Well, I see evidence of the effort. I'm mentoring a young man who's in a internship fellowship as a company manager. I know that Broadway Theater United has gotten lots of internships for people. Lucy LaShawn's has been brought on as a producing partner with David Stone, one of the biggest producers on Broadway, so that people can see representation and success by people who look differently, I mean, who look more like them. So that's definitely a beginning. But the fact is, theater, film, all of it takes money. And the money is getting concentrated into fewer and fewer hands as we speak. And and I was just having a meeting with someone who was a banker, and she was talking about how you have to talk to private equity to get money from them and how they expect things to be done a certain way. And how, at a certain point in the year, they go, oh, we haven't done any DEI work. We need to give some money to somebody in the DEI world, but we don't know anybody because they didn't go to our schools and they're not in our private clubs. And so they end up giving it to their, someone who maybe knows someone, or maybe it doesn't get to anybody at all. And I think there's that real reality that since we don't have government funded arts, our arts are limited by who has money and who has access to that money, because people give money to people they know. And there are
Well,
less ways for people to get to know people than there were before. I mean, you could actually meet somebody who was an actor who might be really, really rich when you went to auditions in person. You could meet somebody who is starting out as an actor and maybe they're going to turn into a producer, but you don't even get as many opportunities to meet people anymore since the pandemic.
well, hopefully that's going to be changing and evolving and getting a little bit better. I I
I don't know how that's going to get better. Self tapes are not going away, and they're doing self tapes for the theater.
oh, really? Oh yeah, I
Yep.
guess they are. I guess they are. Um, I know that we started to talk about this a little bit, but you've established the fact that you're frustrated with theater and you're not sure that you're going to do another show. God forbid, but you that's where you are. We would be very sad not to have you on a Broadway stage again. Um, but let's
Makes
talk
me
about how
sad.
you moved. What?
I said, makes me sad too.
Yeah. What do you think would change that?
I can't think of anything that would change it.
Oh, well, maybe getting a little bit less. self-conscious about everything, that we're in very sensitive, we're in a very sensitive time right now. And while we're talking about the frustrations of having to be sensitive to every little thing that's going on, at the same time we have people in other parts of the world of our country who are um, really making it essential. Like just the fact that Ron DeSantis has positions the kinds of positions he takes about sensitivity, and just because we have a lot of people that are like condemning being woke as if being woke is a disease of some sort. I think that I think we're figuring it all out. I think we're hashing it through our culture right now, and I don't think we're going to stay here, but I'm hoping that we go in the direction that you and I think would secretly like to see it go. I'd like to see people just be comfortable and accepted and welcome into um just welcome into our culture. I don't think we're wall builders. Um,
You don't think we're what?
I don't think you and I are wall builders, but we have wall builders
Wall
in
builder.
our
No,
in,
I don't think I'm a wall builder, but I don't know. I think that this sensitive period of time may last beyond my lifetime. And I think
okay.
this is an important time that we have to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't I do agree with you about it. It's frustrating. And I also agree with the idea that we probably do need to go through it right now. I think it's very. I mean, look, I've been becoming aware of things. I just thought that white privilege was something that people just bandied about as something that happens, and I had nothing to do with me. But like more and more, I understand what white privilege is. I understand my assumptions. I understand that there are people that can't make the same assumptions going through life that I can. And I I do think it's in the process of changing, and I'm afraid I do agree with you that it may take longer than our lifetimes. But I'm glad that it's happening. I'm glad that people are at least willing to look at it. Um, Not all. I wish more people were willing to look at it. Um, what was the other one?
Yeah.
Tara Moses like threw it at me. It was not only white privilege, it was also white. What was the other one? Uh, it's the whole thing where Ron DeSantis and others will say, "I'm not comfortable talking about that, so I don't want you to, I don't feel that you should voice that on me. I don't want to have conversations about it." And we have people that are taking the position that slavery was a boon for the black population, and there's so much crazy stuff going on that it's like no wonder we're exploding. Um, it's I don't know.
It's
It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's a strange time. I mean, as I said, I've traveled to about 83 countries and really coming to understand that most everything I learned in America is just so not true. Where it's such a reduction of the history of the world that I have to rethink everything about how I want to be. I mean, I'd say that the thing that I have experienced most in my travels is that most people just want enough. And enough is some food and something to drink and a roof over their head and some meaningful work and to know that their loved ones are safe. Enough. That's what most people want. And we have people who have more than enough to last them centuries, last their families for centuries. And there was just a study that came out a couple of weeks ago that said we could have 8.5 billion people living at the high poverty level, which is a standard in Denmark, where everyone has good food, good education, housing, health care. We could have that for 8.5 billion people if we reduce production to 30% of the production level that we are currently sustaining and attempting to grow. So we are definitely doing it wrong. And the UN just came out with this pact for the future that I've been reading through, and it just says all these words, but nothing really realistic about how they're actually going to do any of this because the corporations have the power. They've got all the money and they've got all the power.
I want to thank Janelle, by the way. It was right. White fragility was the word I was looking for. White fragility. And it's a very real thing. It's an embarrassingly real thing. Yeah, well, we're not going to be able to change the world today, but I'm glad that we're confronting some of the things that are happening. I do want to encourage people in the room to put comments and questions along the lines of what we're talking about or anything that you want to know. I want to talk about the shift from acting to directing because I know that you direct a lot. And I do want to
A
talk
lot, but
about
I
that.
have directed a little bit.
What was that?
I said not a lot, but a little bit.
Well, what is it about directing that attracts you?
World building, the fact that I get to build the world and I get to build it the way I see it. And there's just nothing more empowering than getting to build a world because you are the god of that world. And so I encourage all artists to do it. And I think it gave me a lot of more respect for all other artists, even when I may not agree or like what they're doing. I was like, hey, you're god of that world, do it. Like you got to get that thing in your head out. So yeah, I mean, and
Do you
that would be
think
from a producer director.
this seems a little obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you think it's an advantage having worked as an actress for years in terms of how you are able to communicate to other actors as a director?
Uh, in some ways, not, because I'm very, very respectful of actors, and so I tend to get out of their way and don't want to tell them too much, even though I pretty much could act all their parts for them. I think the next time I do something, I will be a little more hands-on, but depending on who the actors are. I tend to give actors a lot of free range because that's what I like. And I feel like most actors don't get the opportunity to show off all that they can do. So I really try to give them that chance.
Your many paths also took you to I think it was a passion project for you, Red Pill. Uh,
Oh, yes.
let's talk about Red Pill. Let's talk about how that came into your life and why you decided to basically you produced, directed, and acted in it.
Yeah, I did about 100 jobs on it.
I only had
Always
time
wanted,
for three.
I always wanted to make film and was trying to collaborate with other people to do it and had saved a little bit of money to do it. And all the collaborating kind of people kind of fell by the wayside. And I was just like, I'm making a movie this year. And I remembered a friend of mine who went to Cal Arts said that whoever the then head of it 50 years ago, he was some wonderkin genius. And he said, me and my other genius friends, we get together once a month and we come up with the next $1 million idea. And we, write them down. And I have a whole box of them. Do you want to see the box? And she was like, why is he doing this? What does that mean? And he said, it doesn't really matter what the idea is. What matters is that you finish something, finish it from start to finish. And that just impacted me so much because there's so many people that are talking to you about what they're going to do, what they're going to do, what they're going to do. And I just decided I'm going to finish it. And I had met with several producers who said, you don't have enough money. You don't have enough time. You can't make a feature film. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna make something. We'll find out what it is at the end, but I'm finishing something this year. So the idea of finishing something is really what is very motivating for me. If I start it, even if it's a mess, I'm gonna finish it, and it's gonna be a finished, not quite what I wanted it to be, but it's gonna be finished.
Well, how long did it take you to do Red Pill? I thought it was a lot. It took a lot of your time and energy.
It was finished being shot in 2019. It didn't release, I think, until 2021, maybe. And the time that it took in post was really because I didn't know what I was doing, and I ended up having 5 editors. I ended up going to Korea and finishing it there. So a lot of the time was just my education of how you finish a film and learning that a film is made in post. Like the writing and the shooting is the nothing part. It's post production that makes the film.
I suspected as much. But dare I ask you to tell us a little bit about what the movie's about and how people could actually find it and see it?
Oh, it's on Amazon, it's on Tubi, it's on Fandango, it's on probably on Apple, it's on a good dozen platforms. Yeah, it's on a
Well,
lot of platforms.
you don't want to tip it, but can we at least say it's kind of a horror film?
It's a socio-political horror film, so it's not a slasher. Yes, people do die, but it's about an election and it's about the lead up to an election and kind of it's going to be kind of what not exactly what this election is going to be like, but we're gonna have some chaos after this one too.
I'm afraid we will. Yeah. John Ewing has a question. He says, well, this goes back to what you said before, but you're thrilled, you're finished with theater, which I'm gonna choose not to believe that completely.
I can't
Um,
say I'm finished. I mean, I have a couple of projects that some writers are supposed to be writing for me, but I'm not going to be holding my breath until they do.
and also being involved with theater in the non-commercial, non-Broadway area is probably not as toxic in many ways, I would
No, I
think.
can't. I don't know about that. I mean, I just was fired from a reading last week, so I won't be doing those anymore.
Oh dear. Well, John says if you had a few wishes and could change anything about Broadway, what changes would you make?
If I could change anything about Broadway, and I've spoken this to some powers that be, since Broadway is what makes New York, it would be in every borough, and it wouldn't just be five families. There would be Broadway theater, at least one Broadway theater in every borough in New York, so that some of that revenue could be spread across the boroughs.
That's a nice idea. Um, let's see. John, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that, or was that cool? Was that good?
No, I think that in and of itself would just change a whole lot.
Okay. Um, Anybody else in the room want to have a question or comment? Through world travel, as Janelle says, through world travels, which countries have the most supportive infrastructure for creatives? Anything other than the United States has a more supportive infrastructure for creatives.
England, Australia, um, yeah, seen some amazing work in England and in Australia.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier, which is the fact that we have no government support for the arts, or we have minimals. I mean, there is a little bit here, a little bit there, but
Canada has
that's
support for their artists.
yeah, that's my big gripe. That's my biggest, I think my biggest gripe is the fact that we live in a country that you would think would be, well, why would I think that? You would think would be like me and embrace the arts. But that's not who our population is necessarily. And the other thing that's really crucial, in order to have the arts survive and thrive, there just needs to be more support in schools. There has to be more support of arts in our school systems. Um, there's a
I
little bit
don't
here
think
and
anybody
there.
who's ever had an arts program in their school has ever had to complain or not been, positively impacted by that. But we have to realize that the people who have most of the money in the world don't want an educated population, don't want a thinking population. They really are trying to move us back to serfdom at the very least, and slavery or serfdom. That is really what they want. So the arts empowers people. It makes them think. It makes them imagine things beyond their kin. And I don't think that is the plan at the moment, as we are looking at the Test Real movement, which is Musk and Thiel, where they just want us all in our little headset, living in our digital world and digital people and all of that. So that's not where the money and the power is going right now.
Speaking of digital, let's talk about AI for a second. I'm actually going to have somebody in 2 weeks. Tim Kashani is going to come on. He's going to talk about a series of 6 projects that he's involved with that use AI. Um, what do you have any feelings one way or the other about
I
AI?
use AI almost every day. I have ChatGPT on my phone. I pay for it. We have conversations all the time. Anytime, I don't do Google mostly anymore. I just go to ChatGPT. There's not any question it can't really answer for me. I have chat GPT mentors. Like most of us can't remember what we've done our whole life, our whole body of work, but the internet does. So they're called custom GPTs. They used to be only for paid subscribers. They made it free in this last round. And you can go on there and you can make a custom mentor and be like, I don't know, let's think who it might be. Hal Prince. I want you to interact with me as Hal Prince, and I want you to use every single interview and every bit of biographical data and his body of work. And I'm going to ask you creative questions. And I want you to talk to me in the first person as if you're Hal Prince.
And it does it.
Yes, it does.
It's scary, right? I guess
It
I'm
can
going to
be
try that though,
overwhelming.
because
It
I've
can be overwhelming. Sometimes I'll take an idea and I'll run it by 4 or 5 different directors or writers and get their ideas. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's a lot.
I rode in a limo with Hal Prince from a to an opening night party once. I never said a word. I was terrified. So I think I would like to have that conversation with him now. Um, let's see. John Ewing, this is kind of related to other things we've talked about. Uh, Compare and contrast your favorite and least favorite things about the film and theater industries. Well, we know what your least favorite things are about the theater industry right now. Do, is the film industry any better? Can
I
you
don't
compare the
think
two
things are as
industries?
precious. I don't think it's as precious. And, haven't been doing a lot lately, but it's not as precious. I mean, we certainly have an intimacy coordinator on sisters. When you're moving as fast as we are on TPS, we don't have time for preciousness. There's just no time for it. So I haven't been on a long show in a long time. So the preciousness for me gets in the way of the work. Like you need to be able to move at the speed of trust in creative situations. And in general, the predators are not, uh, they're not, predation is not happening at the spot of work. So putting all these rules on the actual work is not protecting people from predation, which normally happens outside of the actual, when you're on stage or when you're rehearsing. Uh, but people like rules, or people who are afraid of the mystery of life. They want someone to tell other people what to do, and they like rules. So, for those people, I hope they're happy. I hope they're more secure.
As an actor, do you use the same basic tools or do you use them differently when you're creating a role on Broadway versus Livia in a TV soap opera?
Yeah, I'm using all the same stuff. I'm using myself, and I'm constantly trying to expand my capacity, my knowledge, my experience, so that I have more to bring to characters.
Well, a lot of us are aware of the fact that in theater you have to have a script memorized beginning to end. You get up there and that's there's usually no teleprompter or anything like that. In film, you're sort of filming in chunks. How
Yeah,
does that
but
feel?
that depends on the show you on. I mean, like when I did Scandal and she's writing 5 syllable words, and you show up on that set, it's a word perfect set, and Joe Morton is over there and he's already memorized everything. Like that really depends on the set you're on. So, going in on Scandal, it was like theater.
It was like that, okay. But I've heard actors say that there's something a little disorienting for them not to be able to play a character from beginning to end. That you just for films in particular where you're doing a scene one day and another scene another day and not necessarily in the chronological order. So I would think that would be difficult, but maybe it's not.
Never bothers me at all because in theater, I have my body, I'm in control. Film, TV, I'm a tool for somebody else. I don't know what the story is they're telling. They can take my performance and cut it into pieces and make it into something that I didn't imagine I was doing anyway. So I don't even concern myself with that.
Have you ever seen yourself on screen and been surprised and not kind of remembered doing the way the editor put it together?
No, because I haven't really had a big enough. Well, I'd say there was one time I was surprised, and that was a film I did with Elliot. Gosh, her name was something else before, and
Paige.
Rooney Mara. Elliot
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 Page.
Elliot Page, and Rooney. And I remember on that film, all my scenes were with the two of them, and the director Talia, she kept saying, you know, can you do less? Can you do that? Da, 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 da. She kept giving me notes, 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 and she finally just put me inside. And she said, "You're just so compelling on screen. You know, you really are a star, and it should be your movie, but this is not your movie.
What was the movie, by the way?
It's not your movie." I don't even remember. Anyways, I saw myself in that film. She had shot me from behind at all times. Like any scene that I was in with them, you don't see my face on camera.
Well, so it wasn't a pleasant surprise, but it was a
I
surprise.
was like, okay, well, that's a way to make sure they don't pay attention to me.
Oh, Lordy. Um, let's see. RK had another question related to, it was kind of, it spun off of what you were talking about, bringing Broadway into the boroughs. Hard to get around the fact that 65% of Broadway theater is supported by tourists. It depends upon them. So question, how can we develop a more local focused theater here and around the country?
Because everything is about sales. You know, if you look at Edward Bernays and propaganda and how he turned us from a population of people who bought what we need into a population of people who bought things that we thought we would feel better. I mean, it's an entire science that the FBI uses, that corporations use. Just the way they sold us on buying cars and cokes because of sex, you could do the same thing to sell. Oh, but you got to go to Queens, and you got to go to the Bronx, and you got to go here. That's just a choice that no one's putting the money into doing that sales. That's really the bottom line of that.
I guess, I guess one of the things that has happened since we came back into live theater is that there's been many changes in the audience, in the audience makeup. Um, One of the things that I read, and people have sworn this to me, is that one of the places where audience has dropped off has been in the supportive New York audiences, and that the tourism is really keeping things going, which surprises me. So I think the ticket buying habits have changed also. Um, but I know like Cody Lassen was the one who told me, he said that what we've dropped is in the support of the local New York theater goers. Um,
Ticket prices are just too high. I mean, a ticket
so,
at the Lortel when I went to see Oh Mary, it was a $300 ticket and an off-Broadway
um,
show.
well, forgive me for saying it, but oh, Mary, $300. All right, that's a lot for an off-Broadway show. Well, now it's on Broadway and it's probably less
And it's still
expensive.
$300 or more.
Um, this is a topic for people who are in finance. I don't know what to do about New York theater. Everything is so expensive, and it costs so much money to produce a Broadway show. Um, oh my God, Kate McCloud just said the ticket for Othello is
I
eight
saw
hundred and
that. I saw
twenty-one
that. Oh
dollars.
my God. Yeah, I won't be seeing that.
Well, let's see. Give up my apartment and see a show. All right, sure, why not? Um, Arcade, did you want to elaborate at all on this on your question? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, hi. It's a quandary. We're so dependent on tourism, Broadway, and even for the most part, for long-running off-Broadway plays, uh, that
There's an oxymoron.
yeah, and being able to, support this body of theater workers, with that is one of the ways that's making New York successful. But, it's a really difficult thing. And I think the other thing is about government support, specifically for theater, arts in general, but for theater is just lacking for the most part from a federal level. Here in New York State, we do a little bit better than other states.
And Arcade, did you say earlier that Tanya was on A Time to Kill?
Yes, you can see her signed poster right there in my uh,
So did you guys
Oh,
yeah.
did you guys meet each other back then?
But we probably did, yes. Uh, downstairs, toasting with Daryl Roth, something like a course like that.
I
So
think I'd like to write a play, Toasting with Daryl Roth.
yeah,
Okay,
well, there we go. We could try
there
that.
you go. Try
We'll
that.
write it
That'll
for
work.
Tonya.
Tonya, the you said there something earlier that startled me and was so amazing that you got a fellowship. You had a Fulbright fellowship and you had planned on going into business originally. So how does all that come into play for you um, with your career now? How do you use your business skills and your big business acumen?
I'm a corporation. I have a lot of LLCs. I put every project I do into one. I tend to do a lot of self-producing.
You do a lot of self-producing. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, what would you say is the secret to successful self-producing? How do you self-produce? A lot of people spend too much money. A lot of people get uh, don't have don't have the support that they need. Self-producing doesn't mean that necessarily you're doing it yourself, though, does it or does it?
That's what it's meant for me.
Oh, really?
That's what it's meant for me. I
Well,
mean,
it's a
this
lot of
play
that's a lot of energy.
at the Apollo, I mean, the Apollo is giving me a lot of resources. This will be really the first time that I have other people providing resources. And then actually the last feature film I produced, I had investors in that. But in general, I'm the first person who's putting up the money because I want to see it done. And if I invested in something that I want to do, then that's, lowers my tax bill.
A lot of producers say that it's important to show your potential investors that you have some skin in the game, as they say. So they always say that you should put some money in your own shows. Um,
Well, I'm going to put a little article in the chat. Let's see if I can get it to copy for me. I don't know. But there's an article that ProPublica just came out with that I thought was really kind of a smart. I don't know. I can't get it to. I'll figure out how to share it in the chat uh,
I have an interesting
about,
question. I'm gonna. There's also an interesting question from Kenny Fine. It's actually a nice question. Can you speak to
Go
theater
ahead.
being an agent? Can you
Hi,
speak to
Kenny.
theater
How
for
are you?
being? Ah, we
Kenny
know
and
each
I
other.
know each other since we're like
I'm
15.
good. So good to see you.
Too.
So he wants to know how to speak to theater as being an agent for social change, and anything you see in terms of connecting activists and activism with theater. Is that happening? Are people trying, interested? Any developments?
I don't know because I haven't really, I mean, pretty much for the last, since the pandemic, I've just been traveling the world. So I haven't been focused on theater other than writing my own stuff. And I don't know. I don't know. I,
Well, well, I do. I actually do think that art in general is a platform for social change. I what I've said this many times. Politics is where people go to fight with each other, and art is where they go to listen to each other. And that's why I think theater can be powerful and probably affect some change because people are listening in theater. They're not defending themselves. They're not fighting you. They're not yelling at you. Um,
but what theater gets produced? I mean, I'm sure that somebody could make some theater that would make people get angry and stuff like that. But would that get the
which is
money?
also which is
You know?
also a form of conversation. At least people are listening in the arts, and I don't think just theater. I think all the arts. Um, so the Victoria at the Apollo has opened up space for many new artists and productions. RK is saying, and were you able to get that link into the chat?
I did. I sent an article. I put an article in the chat from ProPublica. Did you see it?
I'm not seeing it in my group chat.
It's in the chat.
Okay, it missed me. All right.
You see
Um,
it?
no, I'm not seeing it. No, Jane's not seeing it
Well,
either.
it's there. It's going to, okay, maybe I'll try to send it to you, Bob, but I don't know. It said it
Yes,
went to AI.
oh, it went to AI. See, AI is not the chat. Now we got it.
Oh, gosh. Who knew that the AI was something else? I didn't never had that happen before. I thought that was to
Okay,
everyone.
I'm
It's
gonna
in,
put it in the group meeting. There you go, everybody. That's the whoops. Now you go. There you go. Now you have the article. When you're a billionaire, your hobbies can slash your tax bill. Okay. All right. Um, wouldn't know about that, would I? So, Tonya, is there anything else that you would like to say to people in terms of what you feel is
No,
important
just
right now for
good luck to all of you producers and writers, and like keep making your work. It's there's just nothing better than being a creator and getting to build a world. I applaud you, and yeah, keep it up.
And
Keep
you say
moving.
that you say that you mostly self-produce, but I think you've actually produced. Well, you consider Red Pill as a self-producing venture.
Absolutely self-produced.
Okay. Um, but you've put money, have you put money or raised money for any other, and are you interested in being a producer?
No, no.
Okay.
I mean, I am a producer. And yes, for my play, as we talk about where we'll go after the Apollo, I'm taking those meetings, and yeah, we're going to have to bring in money to get it other places. So yes, I'm a producer.
Okay. Okay. Um, only pushing the point because that's kind of our mission is true, is basically to get everybody to understand how to produce and what and the value of producing and the value of
Yeah, I don't
producers
know. The banker
because
that I met with, she was like, you got to talk to them in a certain way, and they expect things to be done a certain way. And I'm like, I don't know any of those things, and I don't know that I have the patience or the tolerance. But if you're going to walk me in the room with private equity, teach me how to talk the talk.
right. Well, not everybody in TRU is producing at that level, but we just basically want people to understand the business, how it works, and the fact that money is involved, and you do have to understand how to spend your money. I've had many people come up to me and say, "God, I wish I'd met you. I met TRU like 10 years ago. I would have saved thousands of dollars on my self-producing." Some people spend more money than they need to when they self-produce too. Um, anyway, I
Spending it
think.
on yourself. It's like my coffee or my magazine. I don't drink liquor. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I spend it on self-producing. It's my art.
There you go.
I don't regret anything I spend on my art.
Okay, I'd like that to be a final statement for today for everybody. I don't regret anything that I spent on my art.
I
Um,
don't.
I think it's very wise, actually, and I think it's a good note to end on for a lot of people here because they're all frustrated. We're all frustrated about getting our work up, and sometimes you just have to do the work yourself and get your stuff up and seen and out there.
And make
And
sure everybody's got a corporation because they have more rights than you have. And, as long as you're making these things through a business, all of the expenses are deductible.
right, if
If
guys,
you're
even
not
if you're a
making it
self
through a business, they're not deductible. So you got to be making them through a corporate entity.
Um, Tanya is correct. So everybody really think about having an LLC or a corporation of some sort or some sort of business entity when you're producing yourself. Even when you're producing yourself, a lot of people do not think about that. Um,
Very important.
I want to just thank you. You know, I love you very much.
Oh, I
I
love you
really
too.
do.
So
I
much for
just am
having me.
so tickled to have you on and to have conversations with you. I'm going to say thank you to the room, and I'm also going to say thank you to the people out there in YouTube land or podcast land, whoever happens to stumble upon us. I say this every week, but not everybody, not all of you out there see us every week. So if you're seeing us now, I just want you to know that we welcome you to come and be part of the community. I would be more than happy to invite you to come in and meet the people that we interview and have your questions asked and answered as well. Um, Email me at trunltd@aol.com. It's trunltd@aol.com. We'll send you the Zoom link every week. Next week, I've got five people who just got back from Edinburgh. They're going to talk about what the Edinburgh experience was about, and all of us who are self-producers, all of us who are artists, need to know about Edinburgh and need to consider at some point the possibility of having our work done or self-producing in Edinburgh. It's a great place and it's a great experience. The following week, I have Susan Lee who's going to come in and she's going to talk about her work in bringing arts to young people she found at Camp Broadway. and she founded the Broadway Education Alliance, and she does good work. We're going to talk about the importance of nurturing the audiences of tomorrow so that we actually have a business tomorrow. And then also Tom Kashani is going to come in a couple of weeks and is going to talk about AI and using AI in theatrical productions that are coming up. So that's it. I hope you all join us, and I hope you'll come back and be part of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.